Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. But as we rapidly progress towards signing day, we'll bring it back again for a little late evening Sunday recording. Um, First of all, congratulations to you and your family. Parenthood 2.0 for Bud as he bravely entered into this week. So great to be able to get a chance to speak with you and you and your family size of +1. So good for you guys. Great to have you back. And congratulations to you and Maggie.
I would say it's a total team effort, but that's really not true. It's like, babe, I'm 50% of the DNA. You're greater than 50% of the work here. I appreciate that, and yeah, man, everything's been going great. Mom and baby are healthy, and my utter little guy is adjusting to being a big brother. So, um, little little change for him there. That's probably been the biggest change.
Yeah.
You know,
Change for him. No change for us. We're sponsored by the same good people that we've been since day one. Louisiana hot sauce, 3 simple ingredients, one fantastic product, and the wonderful people at Tarpon Cellars. TarponCellars.com. Great selection of wine, 20% off with the coupon code Nolecast. Order now to ensure holiday delivery, and a tip of the hat to them as they make everything that we do possible.
absolutely, buddy. So, speaking of changes, the last time we spoke, FSU was attempting to and zeroing in on, I guess, is the popular industry term. Probably stealing that from Gene Wojciechowski, the ESPN NBA guy, zeroing in on Vince Tyra, the Louisville AD. Louisville's board met; they removed the requirement that he, give notice and all this other stuff, and then he decides to go into the back to the private sector. Maybe he's just tired of the college game. Do you have a really good sense as exactly what happened there? Because I'm not going to lie, I
I don't
don't.
know all the details. I do know a good amount from the Florida State perspective. I'll put it this way: when our favorite radio guy Jeff Cameron suggests that he played himself, from what I know of this story, I think so. I think he got a little greedy, tried to play one side off the other, and ended up crashing against him pretty quickly. Florida State was and again, this is Florida State's perspective of story. You have to put that through your own filter, but Florida State was really eager to get an athletic director in place. Felt very comfortable with Alford, and when they thought that they were entering into some kind of contractual games, I think they pulled the trigger pretty quickly to move in that direction.
I think that's fair. Now they have Michael Alford, right? A guy who, for most of this year, we had been pretty comfortable with becoming the athletic director. Certainly, Mike Norvell and his staff are extremely excited about this move because a new AD coming in is unquestionably going to shorten the potential clock there on Norvell and company. Um, an AD who has been running the boosters, having to work with Norvell in lockstep, really explaining the challenges of the current program, the need for continued and increased support from the boosters to get this thing turned around, and understanding a lot of the challenges that Mike went through with his staff. And I should probably not use the term Mike here because both Mike Alford and Mike Norvell are named Mike, but the challenges that Norvell and company went through, um, I think having somebody who understands that really does guarantee that Norvell gets 4 years in Tallahassee, if not 5, assuming that he shows some continued progress. And so if you're Mike Norvell, you're really happy about this. If you are some of the big boosters, I think you're very happy about this move as well. And I don't think that this is like a large drop off in terms of a backup plan. Uh, there were some names mentioned in this search that I thought, I don't know about, but
Mm-hmm.
Alford was definitely the one. It's like, you kind of worry about losing that guy a little bit. You think maybe you can keep him with the boosters. Very skeptical about that. Uh, Here's something I'll throw out to you because we know a lot of people that Alford talked to. He's kind of a politician. Uh, he got told why he wasn't getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now that he knows that, based on the conversations he's had with people privately, maybe that can lead him to make some of the changes that you and I think need to be made within the
Yeah,
athletic department.
we referenced this last podcast that our belief was that Alford was informed in his view. Originally, he wasn't viewed as a large enough large enough change agent. I think that's a very good point for you to bring up. I would also make 2 other points. One is that I think we can acknowledge some of Florida State's shortcomings financially, and at the same time try to do away with narratives that aren't there. Florida State was ready to pay Michael Alford a significant amount of money to try to keep him as a booster, and they were going to pay Vinca Tyra a significant amount of money. Florida State doesn't try to do this on the cheap when it comes to salaries, whether it be coaching. Is the support staff as large as other people's? No, but they were going to make a significant financial commitment to try to keep both of those guys. Had that come to fruition, and I think that we can do away with the narrative that Florida State tries to play on pennies when it comes to some of these salaries that they put together.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think this is a good hire. I thought Tyra would have been a good hire as well, to be honest. I thought both of them made a whole lot of sense. And I don't think Louisville's happy about losing Tyra, but at least they also lost their president, whom Tyra didn't get along with. And this is not a Louisville show, so I'll get off this because we have a lot of stuff to get to tonight. But at least they get to kind of clean slate this thing and figure out what they want to do going forward.
It's a good point. We'll watch it. Happy with the direction that it ultimately ended in, and we'll see what kind of continued moves that happens with Alford. I don't think Alford's going to occupy both those positions for long, but I do think that the desired goal was to more or less merge the two entities over time. So I will be interested to see what they do with boosters, how much they continue to kind of try to make that an in-house operation of the athletics department. And, in many ways, you could label this, if you're wildly optimistic, that, this is as good of a learning experience as you could potentially ever have for your athletic director, to have him on campus for 18 months, for him to learn the ins and outs of the program, some of the challenges, some of the strengths, and to have as, intimate a knowledge as possible when it comes to the support base that there is to try to build upon and get some of these projects executed. So, excited to see what the future looks like with Mike Alford, and we'll leave it at that.
No doubt about it. So continuing on here to change and potential change, Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports, I think some Oregon folks as well, reported that FSU OC Kenny Dillingham has been offered the offensive coordinator position at Oregon. Oregon, who hired Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator at Georgia, to be its next head coach, much to the chagrin of some Oregon fans out there. The Lanning hire, not the Dillingham news. I don't know how they're taking that potential news quite yet. Dillingham's obviously a West Coast guy. He's extremely tight with Dan Lanning, like they're good personal friends. They were both together at, I believe, Arizona State, correct? And they're really tight, both young guys. This would be a chance for Dillingham to run his own offense and to, like right now, he's clearly running Norvell's offense, right?
Did they not overlap at Memphis as well?
Yeah, I think they did actually. You're right. I do think this is probably a real situation. We'll get to some other stuff that I think is probably fakery. I have no reason to believe this is not true. I suspect it's a real offer, and obviously Lanning respects Dillingham. Could be a good get for Oregon. I do know, just from talking to Kenny, that he very much wants to be a head coach someday, and probably a lot sooner than people realize, So he's very aggressive out there and trying to get promoted and trying to become a head coach. This, if things go right at Oregon, and I do know that Cristobal thought that team he had coming up was going to be really good, it could be a great opportunity for him to go out there and really kill it, especially if Oregon quarterback Ty Thompson turns out to be something, which some people out there will tell you is going to be a stud. And also some people out there don't have a good answer for when you ask them, well, why didn't you play him this year over Anthony Brown, the Boston College kid who transferred to the Ducks and kind of sucked? It also could likely be more money, but the main thing I think is getting to work with one of your good friends. Granted, Dillingham's also very tight with Norvell, who gave him the opportunity and has kind of been his mentor for quite a while. Get to recruit on the West Coast, and if he wants to get back to the West Coast as a head coach at some point, establishing himself as a good recruiter there on the West Coast could give him an opportunity to maybe get in the mix for, like, let's think about the jobs out there that open this year that clearly Kenny's not qualified for given his age and experience yet. right? I mean, he's 31, I think. Like, he's not going to get Colorado State, which has great facilities and actually spend some money. He's not going to get Fresno at this point. You know, the guys who got Fresno recently, Kalen DeBoer, who ran his own offense there at his prior stop, or Jeff Tedford, who, you know, is pretty, Tedford pretty well established as a guy. If you go out there to Oregon and you recruit well on the West Coast and you put up some points, you could get a G5 coaching job maybe after 3 years at Oregon. You know, go be 32, 33, 34 at Oregon by your 35th year. Maybe you go and actually get a head coaching job that's not completely a terrible G5 job. You know, unlike a Walt Bell who took UMass, which is basically a career ender. You know, and I think he got very lucky to get the Indiana job there. Walt Bell did. I don't know if Dillingham will go or not. I think he's done a good job in Tallahassee, right? But this is still Mike's offense.
Yeah.
So,
in an industry that is filled with wildly ambitious people, Kenny stands out as the amount of ambition that guy has to be a head coach. And, my opinion on this matter doesn't matter a damn thing. I would tell him that there's some decent amount of maturation that needs to take place for him to get a job the likes of which you're referencing. That's not just some kind of career, dead end job where you're back being a coordinator or a position coach within 4 or 5 years. So
I think he should take it.
You think he should take the Oregon opportunity?
Yeah, if Ty Thompson is as good as people think, if he wants to be out on the West Coast as a head coach, I think you should go take it, especially if it's more money and you get a chance to work with one of your best friends.
Yeah, and it's clearly your side of the ball. You're running that side of the ball. There's no question about who's making decisions on it. If you have success, you will 100% receive the credit for the success as opposed to an offensive head coach who's got a background that makes people wonder whether or not that's yours or his baby.
I checked in on some of this stuff this summer. You guys remember, I think I was the first to report that Alex Atkins had been extended and given a raise. If Dillingham does go to Oregon, I fully expect Atkins to be the offensive coordinator unless something has drastically changed. And I think they should promote Tony Tokars, the current analyst, to quarterbacks coach. He played quarterback. He's been the guy who's been on Zoom with AJ Duffy quite a bit, schooling him up on getting him ready to come in and be effective in the spring. He has a good relationship with him there, and he's a pretty solid recruiter for them as well behind the scenes. So that would make a whole lot of sense to me. And if they are not able to promote Tony for whatever reason, I would expect that somebody will probably pluck him. So just very quickly, if Kenny does take that job, and if he does, I think he'll succeed out there, because I think Oregon's fairly loaded coming up, at least based on the folks who know Cristobal, what he said. He could be bluffing, right, to try to get more money out of Miami. Hey, man, I got a loaded team here coming back, right? But if he was being truthful and they've recruited well there, he's got a pretty good team in a fairly winnable league. So I think FSU has some really nice in-house candidates it could promote and keep things. Can you use the word rolling when the offense wasn't really good, but it's certainly improving. Keep things improving, I guess.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see if you can keep, rolling in the final 48 hours or so of the recruiting.
He's also been mentioned for the Auburn job. I don't really know what to make of that. I do know that Auburn tried to hire Zach Hill, the Arizona State guy, and then I don't think that got past their compliance, given all the stuff going on with Arizona State right now. I think you guys know my opinion on Harsin. I tried to bet all my co-hosts on Cover 3 that he wouldn't make it to year 3, and none of them would take it. So they kind of feel the same way. That would seem like kind of like the Oregon move makes sense. The Auburn one doesn't. Because let's say Harsin gets fired, and yeah, you coached at Auburn before, so you may know some people there. But if Harsin gets fired after 22, they're not going to give Kenny Dillingham the Auburn head coaching job. They're going to go and get a big-time head coach, right? Like, you're not going to pay the buyout money on Harsin and just be like, yeah, we're going to promote 32-year-old Kenny Dillingham to this. Hell no, not a chance. That one wouldn't make sense unless you just absolutely cash grabbing.
0 cents.
I do think Auburn might be desperate, though.
Yeah.
Given their current situation.
Yeah, certainly. Back to the topic of recruiting. Look, it's not ideal to have somebody leave this close to signing day. I don't know that it would be a massive deleterious impact. I mean, I know the Coleman kid, he's been recruiting the whole time. I'd love to get your opinion as to where Florida State kind of stands with that kid in general right now after he traveled to Miami over the weekend. Is there anybody else that immediately comes to mind that you would think would be in jeopardy of not signing with Florida State that they would have otherwise if this news pops, say, at 9:30 tomorrow morning?
No. So like I said, I mean, and this news may already be out before you guys hear this show. So we're talking about this in kind of a future tense. I think it'd be a positive for FSU to keep Dillingham. By the way, like I'm just looking at it from his perspective. Yeah, I would go take that job. I think. He's been like the primary position coach recruiter on Coleman. But Norvell has also been involved with Coleman quite a bit, and Norvell played receiver. I don't know that it's a slam dunk to Oregon for Coleman if Dillingham goes there, simply because Lanning didn't recruit Coleman at Georgia, so you may be comfortable with Oregon, the school, but it's also an entirely new coaching staff with the exception of the new OC if he does go there. You could say Micah Pittman, who was in on a visit in Tallahassee this weekend, but Pittman wasn't getting on the field much at Oregon and then quit on his teammates there at Oregon, and they really could have probably used him in that first Utah game when both their guys were hurt. Like, I don't know if he's welcome. I'm not saying he's not welcome back. I'm saying I don't know if he's welcome back or not there at Oregon. And I also don't know, like, is Dillingham recruiting him to FSU because of the state of FSU's receiver room? Or is he recruiting him to FSU because he thinks he's legitimately that good? Would they actually want him at Oregon? Does Kenny think he can play at Oregon and just didn't get a fair shake? I don't know. Those would be the main guys. But again, I think Dillingham's a good recruiter. You also went 5-7 this year. It's a little bit harder to sell. There are some guys on the staff who are selling it really, really well, like Woodson, obviously, who's an absolute stud on the recruiting trail for you. Travis Hunter helps you a lot there too as a recruiter. Those are the main guys, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you said, something that may well be, finalized by the time that we get the podcast published. But, good to have a discussion about it, give our opinion as to what happens with Kenny, and, interesting, energetic, young guy who certainly has a whole lot of career in front of him.
They promoted Randy Shannon to linebackers coach and co-defense coordinator.
I was trying to segue from that without sounding really insulting.
Yeah.
Good for you for just taking the vanilla path there.
That's not much of a segue to me.
I don't want to.
Uninspired to me.
Yeah.
Not impressed with this based on the feedback that I got from people at Florida and UCF who work there. I think Norvell's been doing a pretty good job of hiring guys for the most part. You're not going to get everyone right. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I'm not impressed with this hire. I think there are probably some internal reasons why you made it, but isn't co-DC kind of a demotion for Fuller? What was somebody really going to pluck Randy Shannon away from you and make him the co-DC? Where else was he being considered? Certainly Florida and Miami were not, given that he's like that's not going to happen. I don't know. I'm just not in love with this move.
To slap onto somebody that you don't think necessarily needed to have it. I do think, if the play here, if the upside is that, Fuller can kind of do the X's and O's and Randy can put his arm around you and explain what, is being asked of you a little bit and have the more personal touch, then yeah, maybe I can understand that. But I think Randy is a good influence on the locker room. I think he does a good job of instructing kids. I don't trust him schematically. I am influenced by a good friend of mine who prepared against Randy's old offenses many times, and the feedback that I would get from that. And you certainly are more familiar with these tales than I am, but I've got enough friends in the recruiting world who have told me enough questions about his evaluations that I have some deep concerns about that. So are there some pluses to this? Yes. are there some things that I think both of us are pretty hesitant and trying to articulate here? Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. If they land Wesley Besaint or Earl Little Jr. or both, and again, I kind of laughed that they're going back in on Besaint. I'm sure they'll send him a letter of intent. Then maybe I'll change my tone on that. Right? We'll see. Just not not super impressed by this one, man. To be frank here.
Yeah.
It just seems kind of uninspired. I think you could have done better. And we know Miami and Florida are beefing up their recruiting staffs quite a bit. I think you're going to have a harder time in state against those two in the coming years than you have had recently, unless you have many more wins coming than I expect you to have. We'll see if this move allows you to keep pace there on the recruiting trail. From one Shannon that I'm not super confident in to a Shannon that I'm extremely confident in, let's go ahead and talk about Shannon Young. 844 FSU loan, 844 FSU loan. Ingram, great job on the transition there, just typing that into the sheet. Needed to nail that, and you absolutely did.
A hilarious point here. Did you see how many people on Twitter who, when Shannon first went on the road, people were curious why our sponsor was doing in-homes with prospects and stuff like that?
That's
They
awesome.
thought that perhaps this was a new wrinkle to the NIL news or whatever. I mean, that is hilarious.
I would not put it past Chad.
And quite the testament to a long-standing relationship. That the fact that the name Shannon has some different connotations depending on who listens to it or who reads it.
If you guys are listening at home or watching us on YouTube, please do subscribe and thumbs up. And you need to secure the bag in order to get a new home. This is where you need to go. 844 FSU loan, 844 FSU loan. Tell them the Nolecast crew sent you. It's tremendous customer service, great rates, knowledge of the industry, people you can trust. I've used them twice. About 250 Nolecast listeners have as well. Really look forward to sending you guys some more care packages when you close those loans, and we're really excited about that. Homes move fast in this market. You want somebody who can be agile and adapt to the changing market conditions with you. And when you call 844 FSU loan, that's just what you get in my personal experience.
All right, so we spent a good time talking about some Dillingham talk. I saw a tweet.
Are you wanting that to transition, by the way?
What's that?
It really helps to buy a home if you make more money too, right? And so you need to, and when you're putting in on an offer on a home, you need to have something to back that thing up with. Can that help you transition to the next topic there?
Yeah. You can't just be floating theories out there and hope that your loan ultimately gets approved. So over the weekend, there was a report that Kenyatta Watson, who I believe has done a good job at Florida State, was having some SEC interest shown. I know this fan base in general is pretty frightened and pretty frightened to hear that members of staff are being pursued. On this one, look, do I think Watson's done a good job? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Do I think he's built good relationships? Yes. Do I think he's been a positive addition to the staff? Yes. Do I think there's any war room of a Southeastern Conference school right now that they're just sitting there snapping their fingers saying, damn, Watson got us again?
On who?
I mean, I don't know the prospect. Now, maybe it will occur. Maybe in 2 days, there will be a series of commitments which are immediately tied to Watson. On this one, everybody has relationships. Guys float things out there periodically, and we all want to advance in life, and whether it be a salary bump or interest or perceived interest from others, to me, I'd have to see a little bit more before I'd get too concerned about Kenyatta leaving.
I would agree. Maybe there's a school out there, but we'll see, right? If you're FSU, you got to be smart with your money. You have money. You're not broke, but you have to be smart with it. And we will see how they play this. Obviously, all the best to Kenyatta and everybody else that is trying to, get the most money they can. I just went through that. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely want to extract the most money that you possibly can wherever you are. But yeah, it's certainly get a raise season for everybody in college football. I got the convention coming up in about a month, which I'll be at as well. And again, that's kind of another great time for that. Do you want to you want to go a little recruiting here?
Let's jump into it. That we haven't kind of touched in some of the surrounding conversation with Kenny as far as kids that could be impacted. Um, obviously not obviously. I would say let's start the conversation of the prospects that were on campus this weekend with Julian Armella. We've talked about the fact that that's not the number one ranked tackle in the country. With all due respect to,
He's now the number 2 on that service.
okay, well, good. Julian Armella is a very nice piece. It would be nice for him to be a part of this class. I would not look at that kid and think that you're, going to get some kind of finished product that's immediately ready to contribute. It's a nice piece, nice tools, good project. Let's have an idea and tamper expectations a little bit accordingly.
You want a positive note on that?
Please.
A, I've had my crystal ball on him for I think 3 years to the Noles. I'm not moving that. I expect him to sign with FSU. B, I was told the staff was impressed in the shape that he showed up in.
He looks good.
So
looks trimmed down.
He looked good over the summer at the Under Armour stuff I was at. Like physically looked like he was in good shape. He just got beat more than I expected him to. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, like I like this kid as a freshman. As a sophomore, he got kind of heavy. I think he put in work to get in good shape. Okay, senior year. Physically looks good. They'll have to teach him how to play a little more. And a guy who certainly does have some potential. One of the pieces here in this offensive line class, I have no plans to move my crystal ball on him, barring something pretty shocking.
Is it Azare? Is that how I pronounce that?
I call him Azarie.
Azarie, okay. Azarie Thomas, kid out of Niceville. But I think you had texted me that you were looking for one or two things to occur before you dropped a crystal ball on him. I believe you did over the weekend.
I did.
If I saw that correctly. What led you? Walk us through the crystal ball process, bud, please.
The main thing was just him showing up on campus and following through on the official visit, right? And making sure that some fences maybe were mended there that stretched back to when Jimbo was still recruiting. And I think FSU had some good word there put in, and he's a hell of a prospect, dude. Top 109 player for us in the nation, number 4 athlete in the country, 94 overall grade. FSU thinks he can play corner. I did go ahead and put in my crystal ball for him. We will see where everybody else is putting theirs, and I haven't seen any recent crystal balls for anybody but FSU. In fact, the most recent non-FSU crystal ball is from Oklahoma, and that is back in October. So if you get him and you have Travis Hunter, you have Sam McCall, and you have Kevin Knowles and Duke Cooper, that's a hell of a young secondary, man. And you get Jamie Robinson to come back. That's going to be some really nice guys because they love Knowles and Cooper. And obviously Hunter and Azarie, I think, is a guy who can play early. And McCall is also somebody who I think could play early. And then Brownlee, who is my boy, like one of my favorite guys in this team, is popping off on the FSU official football Instagram page about how he never gets recognized for any awards. I'm like, man, what are we doing?
Awards?
Yeah. You didn't see this?
I had heard something about it. I didn't realize the complaint was for awards. Like what award, like most improved or?
I don't know specifically the award he thought he should have won. I just didn't really think that complaining on the official FSU football Instagram page was the proper forum to lodge this specific complaint, especially when he is the guy who got beat to lose you the Jacksonville State game and cost you a bowl game. And I like Jarvis Brownlee. Like, I'm probably the number one Jarvis Brownlee fan on the internet. And have liked him since 2018?
Oh man,
Just
sometimes
not
these
the
kids
best
just
form
do
for
things
that.
that make me laugh, and that's I got to put that up there with them. So
I will say this: Azaria Thomas is a good lesson for why you continue to recruit kids, because for a while he was not giving this staff the time of day, and then LSU had a coaching change, and Florida had a coaching change, and Oklahoma had a coaching change, and I'm not really convinced he was going to go to Oklahoma anyway, given how far away it was from home. And Auburn went 6-6, and Bama has a lot of big fish and balls in the air, and FSU just continued to call the kid, stop by, say what's up, and all of a sudden, you are the staff that's been recruiting him kind of the longest as far as continuity goes. So that kind of makes some sense there, I guess, right? Um, yeah. So just a good lesson for you. That would be a really nice get for them, and somebody I think that they actually can get.
well, it would be a hell of a class, hell of a haul, and really shift the talent that you have at the back end of your defense, as we've discussed. And Brownlee, we'll just have to chuckle with that in time and just have a laugh at youth in general. From a questionable decision to a great decision, that would be one of contacting or reaching Matt Lewis, our friends at Congruity. Congruity has been an excellent addition to the Nolecast and our humble little small business that we have. Been great for the people at Madso. Shout out to them as always. And great to a couple local Atlanta businesses here that have started working with them as well. You can reach Matt at 844-247-4100, or if you wish for a more informal introduction, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, whether it be email at our Nolecast email account or directly on social media. You can find out more about the company by visiting congruityhr.com. And a big thanks to our friend Matt and his teammates at Congruity, as always, for making the Nolecast possible.
No doubt about it. Let's go ahead and keep this show rolling. Got a couple more things to talk about. Did you happen to see Travis Hunter? 10 catches for $153, touchdowns, and a state title ring. Oh, and he plays defense, and nobody throws
Honestly,
the
it
ball
was
at
one
him.
of his more pedestrian performances, bud. I mean, the guy is I mean, he's everything that made out to be. So hopefully you're just gonna see that one across the line here. Get him into get him in this class and celebrate the fact that you've signed one of the best players in the country for the first time in a real long time.
I'm also not joking about him playing both ways. And I don't think this staff is either.
He's got to play offense. I mean,
Tell me he wouldn't start for
to
you at
contribute
receiver this year.
offense.
Tell me what receiver on this roster is better than that kid right now.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's 18 and they're 22. Who?
No. A lot of people like to say, "Oh, he's the best receiver as soon as he steps on campus," or something like that. He would be.
I don't know that they're wrong physically. I mean, he's got to step into a college offense, but if he stays healthy and doesn't play 500 snaps, I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just yeah. So that's pretty solid. I'm going to give you a hypothetical, and I want to tell me how happy you would be. If I tell you, and I don't know which one, but you land one out of Kendrick Law, Earl Little Jr., or DeCarlos Nicholson, the JUCO DB. Are you like okay? Are you doing backflips? What? Okay,
yeah.
thrilled. Yeah,
really, really pleased if you can hit on any of these kids. Yeah. I think you're setting yourself up for realistic expectations to expect any of them, and certainly a hit rate more than 33% would be pretty shocking to me. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Earl Little, you've done everything possible. Maybe you're even getting some continued ancillary benefit with the kid that decommitted from Clemson to IMG, who looks like he's probably headed to Bama now. Maybe he's already committed officially. I don't know, but I'll ask you about that. But I'm referencing the Dalen Everett kid for people who aren't recruiting maniacs and immediately realize who I'm talking about.
I don't think he's committed, but he did tweet out a couple things tonight. And look, he decommitted from Clemson, and the one visit he took recently was Bama.
Yeah,
and he's there tonight. So
when you show up the next weekend in Tuscaloosa and tweet out pictures of yourself eating with Nick Saban or whatever, you get a feeling that recruitment is probably only going in one direction.
I would agree with that. And that could be big because we talked all the time about trying to figure out Bama's numbers. Do they have room for Earl Little Jr.? Where does Earl Little Jr. see himself in that room? Kind of the same thing with Kendrick Law, except Bama wants Law on offense, and FSU wants him on defense. Although if he wanted to come play offense, I'm sure they would take him to play offense too, given that the state of your receiver room right now and the state of Bama's receiver room. If Bama wants you on offense, the kid's I'm going to take a leap of faith here and say that it's likely he's good enough to play offense for you. With Damani Jackson and Elias Ricks, the LSU transfer, with them potentially going to USC or increasing odds that they go there, it would absolutely help FSU out if Bama got Dalen Everett, because that's just another guy in that secondary who's a stud who may cause them to become tight on numbers. We'll see. Clemson also lost defensive end commit Jihad Campbell from IMG, and I got to tell you, that's a big one. That kid is a absolute freakazoid, and I would not want to have to block him in any way. That was the one dude when I went down to IMG spring stuff this year. It's like, oh,
okay,
yeah, okay. Like even on a field of IMG kids, he stands out as very different, just from a twitchiness off the edge, like Brian Burns style. Whoa, were you offsides? No, everybody else just a half second slow type thing. So that's a positive note if you're an FSU fan and are rooting for Clemson to take another step back.
Yeah. Clemson fans, welcome to having to deal with this stuff that the rest of the college football world does. What, they've suffered more decommitments in one weekend than they had the previous 4 years or something like that. It's interesting to see. Of the three, if you could grab one, would Little be your Let's back out ancillary impact on any other recruits, just as prospects themselves. Which of these three would you take if you could take one?
That's a good question. I think probably Little, to be honest. Still, I think he's a pretty damn good player. Mm-hmm. So, but they're all guys who I think would be takes, right? Like I don't think that the Marquise Gilbert kid, I crystal balled him to Auburn. I don't know that he's a full, if he wants to go right now, take for FSU. Could be wrong on that. He may have already be going to Auburn by the time you listen to this podcast, or maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe he'll commit Monday morning to FSU. We'll see. I don't think so. That's why I went ahead and put in the ball for Auburn there. But all three of these guys are pretty solid players, man. I would just take Little most, but Law's pretty twitched up too, so it's hard to go wrong there.
Pretty twitched up. I will remember that description. All right, so Mortimer, one of the more exciting prospects in this class. Really watch his tape, and it's very exciting about what he can be at Florida State. And he's one of those guys that national media will go, oh well, that's a Florida State type skill player. Great with the ball in his hands after the catch. A guy who
tremendous return game,
just become a consensus 4-star or something like that. Just recently, little undervalued as a prospect, but looking at West Virginia, traveling to Louisville, is this more than just a South Florida kid being a South Florida kid, bud? Or what's your take on where we are here in the final couple of days of this recruitment?
What I put in the notes was a little bit edited as to what a source of mine told me. I inserted the word stuff, and he used a different word, but he just said typical South Florida stuff going on here. And if you guys know what we're talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Like, South Florida kids are a little different when you recruit them. They just kind of play by their own rules. If you're FSU, obviously you like this kid, and he's going to see a playing time need in Tallahassee, and you get to stay in the state. He hasn't really gone on visits to other campuses very much at all. And so this is a chance for him to get out and see some other places. Obviously, Travis Trickett there at West Virginia does a good job recruiting guys. He did go to Louisville this weekend. I talked to a source, said, look, FSU still feels good. Now, would they feel as good if he didn't take those visits? Probably not. Would they have liked for him to take those visits maybe any other time during the year and not wait until the final 2 weekends, which is sort of it just kind of makes you worry a little bit, right?
It doesn't give you any room for error. Doesn't give you any room to try to come back to a kid if he gets...
Except for the in-home stuff, but right.
Yeah.
And at this point, that's kind of done. So, I think that's, as far as other commits who went elsewhere, Woody, Antavius Woody, the guy FSU got in on very early because of the grades thing, and they showed a lot of faith in him. I believe he did visit Auburn this weekend. We'll see if he goes ahead and signs early. I think FSU obviously wants him to sign early. I don't know if that's academics related or indecision related or what have you. We'll see on that one. That's never a good sign when a Bama kid, like not a Bama kid as in the University of Alabama, Bama kid is from the state of Alabama, makes a late visit to an in-state school. But there's a lot of crap going on at Auburn, man. I mean, Bo Nix just hit the transfer portal tonight. That's probably not a great sign if you're Harsin, right? Meanwhile, at FSU, you have Atkins. Now, Woody has always kind of been like, I want to play D-line more than offensive line. So FSU's been kind of smart with this. We're like, hey, you come in and show us what position you're better at. We think you're better at O-line, but if you prove us wrong, play D-line.
No.
I don't want this to be negative, by the way. I want to point out, like, FSU has a legitimate chance to sign the best class in the early signing era of any team with a losing record. The staff has done a very good job recruiting overall. It's had to navigate some difficult circumstances. The season went almost exactly the opposite of how they needed it to go if they wanted to pull off a ridiculous close. As in, they needed to start fast and then just lose games down the stretch, and they could just basically tell kids, hey, we ran out of depth. We got hurt. There's a clear reason. We told you we were building. You saw proof of concept early, as opposed to all the shine being off with an 0-4 start. People want to tell me, Bud, you're an idiot. The shine's not off, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it was. They had to work their butts off to rebuild that, as you heard as well. I think they've done that to some extent. They do have a chance to close this thing fairly well and put together a very impressive class for a team that had a losing record for the fourth year in a row, I might add.
They've recruited really well. We'll have to see what the end looks like. We'll are you headed up to Nashville for signing day?
Lauderdale, actually.
Okay. That's right. I remember you doing that previously. Well, we'll certainly get together for a post-National Signing Day pod. Tried to lay as much as we could out here in the 48 hours beforehand. Great to get you back and be able to record again. As always, enjoyed it. And if you get a chance to like the video on YouTube or give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or whatever else, maybe know that it's greatly appreciated by Bud and myself. And until signing day, we'll be back with you soon.
See you, buddy.